Hello friends, welcome to the lecture on references. In Perl, there are two different types of references. One is a hard reference and the other one is symbolic reference. Today we are going to see what exactly we mean by hard references. Symbolic references we'll cover in our next lecture. So firstly, let us understand why we have written this particular statement. We've always been using usestrict till now, but what is usestrict refs? This particular statement makes sure that in this entire piece of code that we'll write here will always have hard references and no soft references or no symbolic references would be allowed to be created in this particular script. So now, in order to understand hard reference, I've created a hash that is %month. This hash has few entries here in it. Now let us create a reference to this particular hash. So I'm defining a scalar variable that is hash underscore ref underscore month. And to create a hard reference, we simply use a backslash operator and the hash name. So this has created a reference to this particular hash. Now, how do we check whether this is working perfectly fine or not? So we'll simply go ahead and say print dumper in order to dereference this particular reference that we have created. So this particular hash variable, we'll simply call here the hash variable. Now we need to understand what kind of a hash variable is this, or what kind of a scalar variable is this. So this denotes or this points to a hash. So we'll simply write a % here and we'll go ahead and print this. Now let's say when we execute the program, you can see we have got the output that was there, or we have got the data that is there in the %month hash. So basically now this particular scalar variable is a reference to the month hash. In case we need to add an element to a particular element to the month hash, then we can still use the reference, that is the scalar variable that we have defined, or that is a reference to the month hash. So simply say $hash_ref month. We are dereferencing it. We'll add a new key here. So let's say my new key is 04 and the value to the new key is April. Now we'll go ahead and simply print this. So let's see what is the output that we get in this particular case. So you can see clearly we have got the new key added into our hash ref. Similarly, if we go ahead and print the month hash, we will still be able to find the same thing. So you can see we have got the same output as desired. So what we can conclude here is whenever we create a reference to a particular hash, either we use the reference or we use the hash in consideration, we'll be updating, deleting, modifying the same data that is being defined with the hash itself. So remember friends, hash references are basically references pointing to the same data that is being kept in the hash that is referred by that particular reference. Let's move to the topic of anonymous hashes and anonymous arrays. These are very interesting topics, and this particular concept of anonymous hashes and arrays will be extensively used when you start using Perl script more and more, or you'll create more complex data structures to handle your data. So let us first understand what do we mean by anonymous. Anonymous means it does not has any name to it. So how do you create that particular hash? So if you remember till now, whenever we had to create a hash, we always used a %sign, or for that matter, whenever we needed to create an array, we used an @ sign. But in this case, we'll use a scalar sign, that is the $sign. And let's say my array is, or my, we'll first create an array. So my array, that is $arr, and I would just simply say ref, arr of ref. Now in this case, whenever we created arrays, we used round braces. In this case, we'll use square brackets. So I can write the data here, let's say 10, 20. Then again I have an array which is 10, 30, 40. I can again have some more data here. I can again have array defined here, which will be like, let's say 30, 40. It has some string present in it. So ABC. You can still have an array inside this particular array. So I'll have, let's say, string of A comma B. So if you see, this is a very complex structure. It has elements, it has again an array, then an array inside that array, it still has an array. So this has basically formed a structure where it has got it is basically a multi-dimensional array, which we have not denoted using an @ sign, but we have denoted using a $sign. Because of these square brackets, this particular scalar variable becomes a reference to this anonymous array. So now let us see how we can access data from this particular array. Simply, so let's say I'll say print statement and I'll use $arr_ref to point to my first field, that is 0. So what exactly I'll get here is, if I go ahead and execute it, okay, I'm so sorry. In this particular case, you need to dereference your array, and if you see, you have got 10 as the output. So this is what it was expected. Now what we'll do is, we'll slowly and steadily go more deeper. So let's say my second element, if I try to print, what I'll get is, it says my second element is an array. So I cannot print it directly. So if this is an array, how do I get the data from that array? I'll simply pass the index of the elements here. So let's say if I want to print the first element, or the second element for that matter, this will give me 30. So this particular value has got printed. So to understand this particular thing, what we have done here, we have basically dereferenced the scalar variable, that is $arrref, which is pointing to an anonymous array, because we have defined this array using, or we have defined this list using square brackets. So this becomes an anonymous array. If this were to be curly braces, this would have become an anonymous hash. And after that, we've gone to the second element. Then at the second element, we saw that this is an array. So inside this array, we used again an index to dereference that particular array. So understand this. This is the multi-dimensional aspect of anonymous arrays. Now similarly, if we want to print this particular element, how do we do that? So this element itself is like 0, 1, 2, 3 and fourth element. So I'll simply change it to fourth element. Now at the fourth element, I want the third element, that is A and B. So this array would be returned to me. Now inside that, I simply want the 0th element. So let's see what exactly we'll get here. So we have got what we wanted, that is A. So this is how you can create more of the complex structures you want. To dereference them, you simply need to traverse through the array. Whenever you get an array, you simply just need to get the index, or inside a for each loop, you can continuously match with a regular expression saying if this is an array, then again get the length of the array and quickly traverse through the array, get the desired output. I've simply done it on an individual basis in order to understand how we can reach to the depth of any array that is being defined in such a way, that is an anonymous array. So I hope this is pretty clear how we can reach to the last element or to the deepest element of an array. Now let us create a hash. So I would simply say hash_ref here, and to create an anonymous hash, I'll use curly braces. Now this anonymous hash
let's consider that this has some coordinates of a cube. So 0 is my key and value again is an array. So let's say is an anonymous array. So it has coordinates like 10, 20, 30. Now there are multiple records. So I'll simply say my first,
my another record is basically something like 10, 30 and 50, and I'll have one more record here that would be something like 20, 40 and 60. So this is an anonymous hash that we have created. Now let's see how we can access the elements of this particular hash. So let's write a for each loop. Inside this for each loop, what we'll do is we'll get each key. So we'll simply say keys function. Inside the keys function, we'll pass the hash. So the hash is dollar hash underscore ref. And as this is a hash, we'll simply append it with a percent sign. Now we'll get each key in the variable dollar key. Let's go ahead and do some kind of printing in order to understand how we can get the output. So here if we say key is equal to dollar key, we'll get each key from this particular hash. Now how about getting the values from this particular hash? So if I say value equal to dollar of my hash, that is hash underscore ref, and I'll dereference this using the dollar key. Let's see what kind of value I'll get here. So if I execute the program, I'm sorry, I just forgot to the curly brace. So if I execute this particular program, see keys we have got 0, 1 and 2. In the value section, it says the value is an array. So now, because this is an array, what we'll do is we'll quickly get this array into a scalar variable again. So our scalar variable would be something like arr ref underscore val, and here we'll get this particular array in this scale, or get the scalar context of this particular array. Now what we can do is we can dereference this particular array variable. So simply by using three scalar variables, as we know the size of each of these values is 3, we can, as of now, we can do something like this. So let's say $x, that is the x coordinate, as $arr ref val, and it will point to 0th element. Similarly, the first element for $y and $z is equal to second element. I'll go ahead and I'll simply change my variable names, okay, and I'll define them as my what we'll do is we'll go ahead and print these values. So let's see what exactly happens here. So I'll say $x, $y and $z. So now if you see, for the 0th key, 1 key and 2 key, we have got the respective values, that is 10, 20, 30, 10, 30, 50, 20, 40, 60. So this is how we have actually dereferenced a very complex structure of an anonymous hash. It is pretty simple. How we have dereferenced is using the pointer operator or this arrow operator, and we have continuously gone to the depth of the value. So this is how we can actually dereference any kind of a complex structure in Perl. So friends, remember the concept of hard references and the concept of anonymous hashes and anonymous arrays in Perl. These will be used extensively as and when you'll do a lot of scripting and you'll deal with a lot of data. You may need to store these kind of data in such complex structures. I hope this is pretty much clear. I'll see you at the next lecture on symbolic references. Thank you.